Senator Sterle.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I rise to speak today on the current state of the Australian music industry and the general decline of interest and support for new Australian music in this great country. Now, I came across an article in the paper recently which featured the Australian Top 40 music chart. I have to confess I haven't been across the charts since the days of Molly Meldrum and Countdown, so I decided to do a bit of research to see who some of these artists were. And I have to say I was a bit surprised. In fact, Madam Acting Deputy President, I was quite shocked. 17 singles in the Australian Top 40 chart were from US rapper Post Malone. Upon having a closer look, only 3 artists out of the 40 were Australian: Casey Chambers, Missy Higgins and the DMAs. And I thought to myself, now that couldn't possibly be right. So I asked around and did some further research to try and understand why this is the case. And I was horrified to find that most people who are in some way associated with the industry believe that lack of a collective reason to support new Australian music is at the heart of it. Now, this may come as a bit of a shock to most of you in this place, but I don't have a musical bone in my body. I'm an old truckie after all, so that's fair enough. But I did grow up in an era of the hard rock pub bands of the 70s and 80s. I was a long-haul truckie and driving between Perth and Darwin and all ports in between for over 11 years. This meant that I had a heck of a lot of time on my hands to listen as I went through the years, firstly to the radio, then to cassettes, and then my later trucking years, CDs. However, when I was in my truck driving the length and breadth of this magnificent country, I used to think I could put off a pretty good Bon Scott impersonation. Still do, might do it for you later on tonight. And back then, if there was a radio station in range, you could hear the likes of Skyhooks, Sherbet, Renee Gayer, AC/DC, John Paul Young, Marcia Hines and many, many other legends of the Australian music industry. Then as the hundreds of thousands of miles clocked up, there was also AC/DC, Hunters and Collectors, Australian Craw, Rose Tattoo, The Vinyls, In Excess, Cold Chisel, The Angels, Men at Work, 1927, Kylie Minogue, Tina Arena and many, many more artists that have contributed to the rich Aussie music heritage. As I travelled the country, I used to see posters advertising those bands and performers, advertising their performance in towns across our nation. Many of them became household bands. Those bands were part of the fabric of Australia that went out to conquer the world alongside our sporting teams, businesses and arts and cultural acts of the 70s and 80s. Sadly, Madam Acting Deputy President, we are not seeing that anymore. Why aren't we hearing and seeing acts to replenish those household names? Bands and solo artists have contributed to the Australian musical identity and the economy in an enormous manner over the last 50 years, and we cannot afford to lose that status on the world stage. Now back to the 14 singles from the US rapper versus 3 from Aussie artists. It seems like the desire of all of the corporate radio networks to expose any new Aussie music comes down to the competitiveness of the very much changed business in today's internet age, where music is delivered in many, many ways. As we sadly have no countdown anymore, maybe the government can give our artists a radio station that will play their music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether they be 16 or 60, regardless of their music styles. As all the corporate radio companies are calling out right now for licensing fee relief, I've got a suggestion for the Prime Minister and the Minister for the Arts, Senator Fifield. What about you provide that, on the proviso, that they must and only play new Australian music? Think about that. The more you play, the less you pay. And I bet, Madam Acting Deputy President, London to a brick, that'll get the money men loving Aussie music again. So I'm going to take this opportunity, Madam Acting Deputy President, to call on all Australians to take a minute to email or call your local Member of Parliament to tell them we want you to support our Aussie artists and new Aussie music. So the challenge goes out to Australia. Let our music and talent lead us to another great era for the Australian music industry. Now, Madam Acting Deputy President, I'm going to now move to my other favourite topic. And I want to share with the Chamber, in the last remaining minutes that I have, of an exciting project that I've been working on now for well over 18 months. I had the opportunity through a very dear friend of mine, Mr Robbie Williams in Perth, a legend of the Australian music industry, who goes back to the 70s with other legends such as Michael Chugg and Michael Gudinski and others. And Robbie asked me if I'd heard of the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus, to which I replied, absolutely not, where Robbie suggested that I should probably go and Google it and meet him down the Leopold Hotel in Bicton Sunday Arvo at 2 o'clock for a cold one. And I did. And this bus is an unbelievable state-of-the-art, not-for-profit, mobile recording studios. But that's just the start of it. So I went to New York. It was arranged that I could meet up with the CEO and co-founder, Mr Brian Rothschild, where I went to Kaufman Studios in New York. I saw the bus, I got on the bus, I met with students who were on the bus playing their music. And the whole concept is that kids, school kids, can get on the bus when the bus gets to their school. They can write a song, or they can write stories, or they can record. There's all the musical instruments on there. And by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's up on YouTube. And the whole world can see what these kids have done. So I was asked for Brian, and he actually gave me a bit of a surprise because he had one Yoko Ono Lennon waiting. Well, she wasn't waiting for me, she was doing an interview, but I just happened to be out the front like a school kid waiting to meet the great Yoko, and I did. And I asked Yoko if we can get a bus to Australia, would she come to launch it? So my fingers are crossed that we can get this darn bus built. Talk's gone on too long now, it's time to deliver. But Madam Acting Deputy President, it will prick your ears and others, and a lot of people in this place know about it because I haven't shut up about it. It will tour Australia. There is a budget put together and we're off and we're running, and I've recruited these musical legends of Michael Chugg and Michael Gudinski and another one, Mark Pope, and Mark's resume is as long as Chuggy's and as long as Michael's, to work with us. But I've also thought I need to do this properly. And I need to do this where it is not apolitical. It is what can deliver the best outcome for our kids in rural and regional Australia, to give our kids the opportunity to tell their stories, record their music, write their songs, and anything else that goes with it. That's before I start on cultural advantages that will come with this as well. So what we've done is we've joined up with another legend. Well, legend in his own lunchbox, but I'll say that quietly because he had a crack at me yesterday, but Senator Barry O'Sullivan. And I wanted to make this across the chamber. And I know, and I went to Barry and Senator O'Sullivan because he is rural. I know his commitment to kids, it goes without saying. And Barry and I are working on this, Senator O'Sullivan and I, with Michael Chugg, Michael Gudinski, Mark Pope, and of course Brian Rothschild in the US. So I will have a lot more to say about the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus. I have put the proposal wide in this building. And all we're asking for is a measly sum of money to build this magnificent, magnificent piece of infrastructure, or this project. And we don't want anything else. The philanthropic world and the business world will fund this. There's a lot of talk going on. But I'm putting the plea out to the government for the price that I'm asking to build this bus, to get it rolling on the highways and byways of Australia, to roll it out to our rural and regional communities, to give kids outside of the cities a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get on this state-of-the-art bus and play and record their music and write their music. And I have spent many, many days rolling through the Kimberley, showing the kids of the Kimberley, Aboriginal kids and non-Aboriginal kids, how would they love to have a bus like this coming through their communities. It is overwhelming. I have not had one negative word. So on that, Mr Acting Deputy President, my pleas are out there to government. Get in behind Senator O'Sullivan and myself, and get in behind our music legends who are putting their hard-earned time into this project for free, because they're passionate about the contribution that I also made just earlier. We cannot let the Australian music industry die. And this is what we've done. So for people of my ilk, it is criminal that we don't have Countdown Australian music.
Thank you.